This podcast, including all discussions and examples, is for informational purposes only and does not constitute professional advice. The views expressed in this podcast are solely those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any government agency or company. Today, we're sitting down with Meghan Hicks, our Director of Combat Support Equipment, to explore how her Southern roots, athletic mindset, and passion for mission readiness fuel her success at ADS. This is From the Dive Shop.
Welcome to From the Dive Shop. I am Jen Weir-Edwards.
And I'm Hillary Stallings-Warren.
And today I am so excited to introduce to you a dear friend and colleague, Meghan Hicks. Meghan Hicks is our Director of Combat Support Equipment. She is a college athlete, a former debutante, or are you ever a former debutante?
Never.
That's forever,
Never.
right? Has a background and as a retail buyer, and she's a powerhouse here at ADS. Welcome, Megs.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
All right, Director of Combat Support Equipment. Help us understand what that means.
Yes. So I have a team of 10 people, and they manage 6 different categories of product. And those different categories of products are what we represent in the field. And so we want to make sure we're armed with all the right products for different warfighters that they need out in the field or even on base. And so yes.
Well, I was going to say, I think you're probably getting there. What are the categories of product that your team specifically represents?
So we represent 6 different categories. So there's softwall shelters, which is everything from an individual shelter all the way to a large area maintenance shelter. And then we can do turnkey solutions and base camps. So think about everything that's needed in there. So kitchen, latrine, laundry, and they can customize it to everything from an aircraft to building, whatever you need. And then we have power and water. So think about this, power and water, everyone needs it to survive. And so everything from a man-portable power all the way up to megawatt generator. And then water, so we think about water filtration when you're out there alone and don't have access to water. And then atmospheric water generation. And so these are all things that you can find in a base camp or being used individually.
Okay. And then
there's more.
rigid
wait,
wall
there's
shelters.
more.
Yes.
Yes.
What you don't know is that Meg's Jen and I used to work on the expeditionary team together. I used to manage the rigid wall structure category, so I know a little bit about it.
Yes, so hopefully I do justice.
Yes.
So rigid wall, that's where really a lot of growth we're seeing. But think of rigid wall as anything from a containerized structure, modular, pre-engineered buildings. And those can be made into anything like aircraft hangars, building latrine, anything that you need out in the field. And then we also have storage, and that's a very broad category. So that could be storing anything from power storage, water, fuel, and then storage within warehouses as well. And that's anything from, think about like a small container that you would use, but it's obviously a very high level. They'd use to store your clothes, something as small as that, or completely outfitting your closet for storage needs, but in warehouses. And then we have parachute accessories, which speaks for itself. And then we have maintenance, repair, and operations. So think of anything from flight line generators to tools to kitting, anything that you need to repair a facility or things that would be in a facility. And then last but not least, we have mobility and safety. So mobility, think of any kind of vehicle that you would need, an ambulance, heavy equipment, all the way down to ATVs.
So that's a massive amount of equipment that you and 10 people oversee.
Yes.
How do you manage that?
Let's see here. It's one of the catch-alls for the entire company. When nobody knows where to get something, they come to us, which is really exciting. We have a really strong team of new people that have come from the industry or people that are very senior to our team. So I feel like that is how we do our best, and we're very connected to our suppliers and our team at ADS.
So something unique about you, also similar to Sean Johnston's story, is that you started out at an entry-level position and you've worked your way up to a director-level position, which is very impressive.
Oh, thank you.
So when we were prepping, you started to tell me something, and I said, you know what, stop and save it for the podcast, but go ahead. Let's talk about how we met, and I don't remember it.
Yes, Jen does not remember. And I thought about this when we were prepping for this. I'm like, oh, this is a little fun fact. So I interviewed for a role, entry-level role, And I think Jen was the second interviewer. So she wasn't the main person that I was interviewing with, but obviously the person wanted her opinion. So I thought we bonded because she was talking about University of Florida. My parents went there and I grew up going to games. So I'm like, we're in, we got this. And then I also thought I bonded with the person that eventually didn't hire me. And then I found out I didn't get the job. And Jen, we never talked about this.
All.
Yes. Meanwhile, then a couple years later, I got hired. And then eventually Jen is my leader.
That's so crazy.
I know.
What that goes to show is I'm not always right. And that's a blow. I got to say, that breaks my heart a little bit that I'm not always right, because you are one of the best people that I've ever had the pleasure to work with.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's totally true.
What about me?
Yeah.
So entry-level position.
Yes.
Worked all the way up to director.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about that journey, what that was like, and what you've taken away from that experience.
So in the entry-level position, I didn't know anything about shelters, so I started off as a soft wall category manager and in rigid wall as well, but I knew nothing. So I was coming into this not knowing what the heck expeditionary base camp was. So it took me a while to build up my knowledge, but that was my main goal, build up my knowledge of the product, get familiar with the military. I can talk more about that later, but I didn't have a lot of experience interacting a lot with military. So learning all the branches, understanding who you're talking to, and really figuring out what's my purpose here. And so it took a while. Like I was in that entry-level position for 5 years, which is abnormal in the company today. But it took me a while, but I wanted to feel very secure in what I was doing.
And in your defense, while maybe you were in this entry-level position for 5 years, you had every structure that the military could possibly use in your portfolio. And then also some more extra stuff. Like they kept growing what you had to be responsible for. We kept growing what you had to be responsible for within that realm. So don't sell yourself short. It's not like you got stuck in the corner with your red stapler with no mobility.
True.
You were continually taking on more information. So I just want everyone that's listening to know what a badass you are.
Oh, thank you. Well, yeah, because you're right. Because now that was a one category. Now that's 4 categories now.
Right.
So yes, thank you.
Yeah, you're doing the job. You did the job of what 8 people now do. So
thank you.
It's all right. I'm here for you.
So then I decided to stay with this category. Most people would change. I felt very passionate about this type of product and just staying with it, going for the long haul, even though leadership outside of Jen was saying, hey, I think you need to just switch career paths internally or switch categories so you're more well-rounded. I'm like, no, I really feel passionate about this. So I stuck with it, and then I became a category manager, and then 2 years ago I was promoted to director of this market. What's fun about this is I got promoted a week before I went out on maternity leave. So that just shows.
I remember
Yes.
very well.
Yes. So I left Hillary hanging and a small team.
Well, just me in charge.
Yeah.
For a minute. Yeah. For a couple months. Yeah.
But that just really showed ADS's dedication and belief in me, saying, hey, we know you're going to be out for a while, but let's do it. Let's bring you on.
I love that.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about your life prior to ADS. And what I'm really interested in is, I said this during the opening, is you were a debutante. And that's not as common as it once was.
Here.
As it happens, it's funny because my boy, my son just graduated from LSU, and in Louisiana, that's a thing. His girlfriend was a debutante, and they were talking through all of it. And I'm like, I would have been terrible at that. But can you talk? I mean, I think it's just such an interesting thing that isn't common for most people. Especially from debutante to director of a company that does tactical equipment for the military. Can you talk about that a little?
So I grew up in the South, where it's very common. It's almost like a rite of passage. And in Aiken, South Carolina. So my mom was a debutante. Her sisters were debutantes. My grandmother.
Help me understand what that means. I know the word debutante.
Yes.
But to use it as a title, I'm not familiar with that.
So it's basically,
explain that to me.
Your family is introducing you to society.
Got it.
It's as you turn a certain
very
age.
Bridgerton.
Yes, and it's real silly if you think about it. But you have escorts, like you have your stags, and then you wear like a white dress.
Weird.
And you are presented like it's like a wedding, but at a smaller scale.
Yes.
And it's just like this is how you introduce people to society. But then if we go backwards a little bit, in the South, it's really also big to do cotillion and etiquette. Well, we call it social, but. So basically, you spend a year of etiquette class, and it's just what we do. And then the next 3 years, you have a partner and you take dance lessons as a group, but you have to wear like white gloves. You have the spring formal and winter formal, and you learn how to waltz, shag, do all these formal dances. And the whole goal of this is so you can be prepared in any situation.
Wait, what is the
because
shag?
for sure, those situations, I mean, waltzing, it comes up practically daily.
Okay. Well, okay.
What is the shag?
So it's a type of dance that I think originated in Myrtle Beach, but it's a really fun dance. I would love to teach y'all. And it's a really fun way.
Well, let's learn right now.
Okay, let's.
This is a great medium
I'm not
for
getting up.
learning
I'm
how
staying
to
right
dance.
here in my chair.
But in the South, like they have shag clubs, and it's not a formal dance, but it's a fun dance. And it's a really great, at weddings, we typically all shag with each other. I know it sounds bad now that I'm talking about it. We don't shag with each other. We shag dance together.
Got it.
And the whole point of all this is to be prepared, because we go to a lot of black tie events, black tie weddings. So you want to be able to know how to lead any situation, know how to encounter any situation. So you basically have all the tools to be prepared for life. And so, like, my mom had to bribe my brothers to do this, but they actually love it now, because now they're like the leader of the party. You know, they can take a girl and they can foxtrot, they can shag, they can do all these things. And it's now very cool, I would say, to be able to do those things.
And how has it affected you? Because I can answer for you, but I want you to answer. How has it affected you professionally?
So it really helps me be prepared in situations when I don't know what to do. Whether that's at the dinner table, whether that's in a meeting, how to introduce people, where to put your napkin when you're going to the restroom versus leaving for the day, for the evening. So it just, I know.
Where do you put your napkin when you go to the bathroom?
Okay, you put it on the back of your chair. And then that's to show everyone you're coming back. And then when you're done with your meal, you put it on top of the plate. And what you're supposed to do with your flatware when you're done, and where you're supposed to place it.
Okay, well, these are very specific.
Yes.
But I could see an overarching utility with your role, especially with regards to, you know, your interfacing with a lot of external vendors.
Yes.
So explain how you've utilized that with regards to interfacing with external vendors.
Yeah, so we do a lot of entertaining or partnership building. And even when we're relating to anyone, it kind of gives the tools to know what to do in a situation, or how to host someone, I guess is a better way. So how do you, like if you were to host a dinner party, let's just say a business meeting or a business meeting with the warfighter, where would you position everyone? Let's put name tags down.
Yes.
And so you're let's think of it as a dinner party. So everyone's engaged to their fullest extent, or where would people connect? So really getting the most out of everyone and making sure they have a good time, but yet you have a purpose behind everything.
It's really, we make fun of you about it.
Yes, all the time.
It's an open joke for anyone that works with Meghan, that if you go to a dinner, even if it's at like a burger bar, you walk up and there are place cards on the table. And at first I was like, Meghan, this is dumb. We're not doing this. And then I realized that it creates the perfect mixture of people. So you've got the right people sitting together so that you can, if you know there are issues, you can work through them. If you know you have business problems to solve, you've got the right people near each other to create the most out of any outcome. I mean, out of any best outcomes out of any engagement.
Yes.
And you've passed that to both of us, I know, and the people
100%.
that work for you.
Yes.
I don't do the place cards because I'm lazy, but I think harder about the strategy of a table, or like you said, of a meeting, even just in a conference room.
Right.
And everyone that works for you, I believe you works for or with you, you've made us more thoughtful and pay more attention to making sure things are very intentional. And that's, I just think it's a really cool thing that you bring to the table. And now I know it's because you can waltz. So obviously.
Well, there you go. I don't know if I could do it today, but I could do it a little bit. Yes.
Well, we're going to practice later.
Okay. Done.
I love it.
So in your role currently, can you tell us some cool projects that you've worked on? Some cool, or not necessarily your role currently, but your previous roles.
Yes.
Some unique projects that you've worked on.
Yeah, so one of them that comes to mind is during COVID. So I was out on maternity leave starting, let's say, December. And then the day I got back from from maternity leave, we got sent home. the day I got back, and this
remember
leads
this.
into
Excellent
this.
planning.
Yes, I know.
Excellent
I get
planning.
there.
Yeah.
Thanks for the promotion. Gonna have a baby. Hey, I'm back. Oh, I get to go home again.
And we didn't know what to do. The world didn't know what to do, but we were overwhelmed with requirements coming in, and we were.
So what would that look like from a shelter perspective?
Yes.
What kind of requirements?
So people were looking for temporary hospitals because there was an overflow, or field hospitals. There was an overflow of need, and hospitals and different satellite units didn't have enough to care for people or separate them from other people. Because at the time there was no solution, and so it was just let's get someone in a negative pressure area and keep them all together, but there wasn't enough space. And so there was a lot of demand, but nobody was pulling the triggers. I think everyone was trying to move at the same pace. So we had existing manufacturers that had things in stock, but also didn't have things in stock. So we were out there sourcing new manufacturers, finding new technology. We worked nights, weekends. I mean, it was brutal, but the overall goal was let's just get everyone safe, and let's do as much as we can. And we worked a ton of requirements, but one of them was the Cleveland Clinic Center, which is huge, right? You're like, oh my God, I can't. They found us somehow, and they said, we have an overflow in one of our hospitals. We need a 50-person, 100-person, and 150-person negative pressure isolation hospital that could be used outside of our hospital. And so we worked through the weekend. We had our CEO involved. We had everyone involved. And then we were going back and sourcing between multiple suppliers. And keep in mind, suppliers are getting hounded by multiple people, and you never know if a requirement is legitimate. So these quotes would be viable for like 6 hours, and they'd be like, hey, we can't hold this inventory for you. So you were constantly like starting from square one. So luckily, we were able to secure the right supplier that could meet the need of like 60 days installed, which is incredible. That's like very rare. And we were able to get it there. And it's still there to my knowledge, or they're still using it today.
Yeah, I remember that time. I remember sourcing shelters where people would have to walk in and get their temperature taken to be able to move into the factory.
Yes.
I mean, there were so.
I remember a 48-hour period, and I think it was a big flash to bang, and we ended up, I don't know how they ended up solving the problem, but I think our entire team was tasked with, you have to find mobile morgues. Do you guys remember that?
I do.
I remember getting those
Yes.
calls and being like, oh my God, this is the most depressing thing ever. We had a
Yes.
massive spreadsheet of people who might be able to deliver mobile morgues in like 48 hours.
And that's really depressing, but you have to think, okay, let's just push forward. Let's figure out how to find solutions.
You helped with the Ebola outbreak too.
Yes, we did. Yes.
What did that look like?
So same type of situation. So they were looking for field hospitals, and they were also looking for gravel, and this was in Africa. So we had a specific type of contract, and we couldn't import gravel, and it doesn't make sense. It's heavy. And so what we ended up doing is working with people in country. They didn't have a solution, but they created one. And so we were able to source gravel in country, which is incredible, like the time difference, the language barrier, all that. And so we were able to provide jobs to, a company in country, and they were able to create gravel. And then we also brought in field hospitals there in a very quick turnaround. And then I think we also built houses, or we were able to employ people there to build houses as well. In the same type of situation, like everybody needed to be segregated and separated from everyone else.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people think that our mission is often fighting, and they don't often realize the humanitarian aspects as well. And the shelters category specifically is constantly being pulled in for those types of requirements.
Every kind of disaster response, we know we're going to be ready to go. We start calling anytime we see like a hurricane possibly hitting, we start calling suppliers, and we get their inventory, start negotiating pricing so we can find the best pricing, try to lock in inventory if we can. So we've learned to get ahead of it as much as we can, and then we're ready. And we know that we are going to be working overnight, over the weekend, trying to find the best solution. And it really is turnkey as well. So they're looking for everything. Like going back to the Cleveland Clinic, they needed the shelter, but they also needed beds. They needed medical equipment. So it's everything. So if we work on it with our expertise, so each category or each market, they have their team of experts that specialize in that specific product. So we're constantly going between multiple people to find solutions.
Of course, the expeditionary market has the biggest place in my heart.
Yes.
But I think one of the really cool things about what you do, there's so many other things that happen, is that this is one area of ADS that truly shows our integration capabilities, that we have the ability. Yeah, of course, you can buy a tent from us. You're welcome. We're happy to provide a tent. But we can provide a tent and everything you could possibly need so that you can live away from a permanent base.
Yes.
Right? Like that's why it's expeditionary.
Yes.
And we've sourced some of the weirdest stuff over the years, right? We've sourced Bibles and games and,
sheets,
sheets
weird,
and tents. Well,
yes.
but you don't think about the fact that stuff just doesn't magically appear.
No.
That whether it's a humanitarian effort or a fighting force, the minute they leave the building that they live in,
Yes.
they need everything.
And
everything.
you're talking about quality of life
Exactly.
for those people as well. If you're not just providing the type of tent that you can get at Dick's Sporting Goods.
Right.
You're providing the type of shelter that can be lived in for an extended period of time, and the warfighter can be comfortable in it and do their best work when they leave.
And then add to it, and again, I'm speaking for you, but I'm so passionate about this that in addition to that, we're providing, whether it's a tent or a temporary structure that has no heat signature so that they can have all of their equipment in it, because it all has to move forward. And it's just mind-boggling to me. I would have never known before I came to work here.
Yes.
You just think magic happens and the Army goes where the Army goes and everything is cool and waits for them. They have to leave and take everything.
Yes.
Everything. And that's where we come in, is we help them get everything. Literally a place to sleep, a place to eat, a place to shower, a place to work, a place to communicate, a place to fix their trucks. I don't know. It's just, to me, it's extraordinary what your team accomplishes and resources. And you're constantly finding newer ways to do it. So pet project of mine, atmospheric water generation.
Oh, goodness.
Talk about it a little bit.
Okay, so this is basically when you're in a situation where there isn't any water, you can pull water from the air, and it creates water for you. So you can have this when you are in a remote location, and you don't have to, when you're limited on things to bring, you can bring that, because you can't bring bottled water. So you can bring that, and it pulls water from the air, and then you're able to drink water. Crazy. And you always need it. And so that's a major thing that we're seeing in the Indo-PACOM region, a major need, because obviously it's high humidity, so we get the most bang for the buck out of an AWG in that situation. And they're using them in buildings, and it's also nice because if you want to use them in buildings, you're also eliminating plastic, and you're just using what you have there. And then they're also using them on top of vehicles, so it could be vehicle mounted. It also can be in a base camp, or it can be pre-positioned somewhere. So when you are island hopping, you can go from base to base or from island to island, and that can be pre-positioned there without needing all of the bottled water.
So for all of the vendors we talk to that have established products, and even some of the new technologies we see that are really viable and really interesting, what's something really weird that you've seen a vendor bring to the table that may or may not be useful or viable? Something really weird or something really cool? What's something that you've seen that you're excited about?
Excited about? Well, it's so skiffs. It's not a new concept, but there's more and more demand for them.
Explain what that is for anybody that doesn't know.
So it's a secure, compartmented information facility. So it's basically a place where you need to have private conversations or share private information in a secured space. And then it could be private in the sense that there's barriers around it, so nobody can enter. But like you said, like radio frequency, nobody will be able to understand the information that's being discussed in there. And with the counter threat that we're facing, we need more and more places where we can discuss and share information in a secure place. So the need for skiffs is growing. 3-letter agencies, military, different applications are needed everywhere, basically. And it's just so we can share our information without it getting out to anyone else, like our near-peer threats. And so we've seen increasing demand, and I think it's really interesting because everyone needs it. And there is just there's a somewhat of a long lead time because there's an accreditation process. And so it's important that people move quickly on it. And it's a really way for us to protect our information and security.
And these are still expeditionary, and that's the thing that's really cool.
So everything's relocatable, which is amazing. So it could be containerized, so it can move easily, or it could be modular that could also be moved. And it could be any type of size. So it could be 100,000 square feet or as small as a 20-foot container. So, and it can be customized to whatever the need is. So a lot of times skiffs, they'll have secure space and unsecure space. And that could be just general meeting rooms or meeting rooms where only certain people are allowed in. But they could also have latrines in there, workouts. A lot of times, especially like, let's say with the SOCOM community, they need a full headquarters that needs an entire headquarters, but a lot of skiff space inside. But they can't leave that space. So they want to have a gym in there. They want to be able to do certain things in there. And so that's everything that ADS can do, which is surprising because back in the day, we never thought we could do this. And we've just grown so much ever since I've been here. We would never think of a modular building be relocatable, but it can. So we're saving warfighters time, and we're able to get them a faster solution rather than them building themselves or getting it like a traditional stick built, which could take up to 5 to 7 years if you use Milcon. And with the, we call it alternative construction methods, where they're using a different type of procurement, but it's also, it's not stick built. So everything's built in a factory, and they're modules. And then when they get on site, they're easily installed. And so that could take, as short as 6 months or 3 months, and then it's installed full turnkey in 2 years. So people are going from 7 years, what they're waiting on buildings, and they're getting everything in 2 years max. And so it's really hard because people are waiting on these new facilities, whether it's on base or overseas on base. They're waiting and they aren't able to get what they need. So we feel like we can make a huge difference in this space, getting people what they need. And a lot of these buildings that they have are decaying and they're just run down. So they're spending money on hotels and they're spending so much more money. So this is a good alternative option. And these modular structures could really last up to 40 years plus. So by the time technology changes, you don't really need that building anymore, like a stick-built building. These modular structures will do what they need to do, and then they'll be moving on to something else in 40 years. So it's a really interesting time for our team, and we're making a large impact there.
So you're a bit of a road warrior.
Yes.
You're constantly traveling.
Yes.
How many hotel nights did you have last year, if you had to guess?
Oh, a lot.
Yeah.
I went hard before I went out on maternity leave. Yes.
So do you have any cool stories from the road that you'd like to share with us?
Yes, a lot, but there's a couple that stand out, or one that stands out. So I had recently taken over the parachute and accessory category. I didn't know anything about a parachute. So, and
again, I feel like you're not you're not self-promoting.
I'm not.
If you look at the stable of products that you cover, parachutes don't make any sense.
No.
And the reason we have them is because the vendors wanted to work with you. That they knew that they were going to get the right service, they were going to get the right care. You guys have you have just a really high level of quality in terms of what you expect and deliver. And that's why, in addition to all the things that do make sense in your stable, you have parachutes. So
yes.
Continue.
And that it was because there was a relationship with one of our softball suppliers. So like, oh yeah, they need some extra love. So Meghan, let's give them to you. Sure. I love a good challenge.
No good deed goes unpunished.
So one of our manufacturers, they have something called Airborne Days. It's every 2 years, and they host warfighters to come out, or parachutists to come out and demo their product and watch demos happen. So this is everything from the international military to U.S. military. It's a place for everyone to get together. They talk solutions. It's really like a 2 to 3 day event where we're immersed in parachutes and aerial delivery. And so it's in Eloy, Arizona. And so we went out there the first day. I asked if I could jump out of a plane with everyone, and everyone's like, no, you cannot. We used to allow this, but now we don't allow that just for certain reasons. And so we found out throughout the day. So it was an amazing event. We got to learn so much, got to hear stories from people, got to watch people pack their riggers, pack the parachutes. So we got to really understand the process from beginning to end and the challenges they have, which was so important in building up the category because we really heard directly from the user's mouth what was going wrong. So anyway, the director of this event, she knew I would jump out of a plane. And I was like kidding, right? Like, when am I going to really jump out of a plane? And she said, well, there's a commercial site right next door to us. It's the biggest skydiving facility in the U.S. She said, they're closed today, but let me see if I can pull some strings and we'll get you in. And so they were closed because they host a lot of military training. So everything from SOCOM to Army, it was closed that day for that. I'm like, cool, it's not going to happen. Like, sure.
Yeah.
She runs back and she's like, okay, they are willing to get you in. There's one person that can get you in. They're willing to throw you on a plane with all these other service people or parachutists. I was like, okay. And I'm like, all right, we're doing it. I'm wearing denim. I'm not wearing the right shoes.
She's wearing heels.
No, I know that wouldn't have made sense either. So then I had to borrow shoes from a coworker. And then I really had 30 minutes to like get myself comfortable with it and just go. So we went on the plane.
That's probably best case scenario.
100%, yes. Yeah. And I didn't even text my husband. I'm like, I'm doing it. Because I'm always down for immersing myself in.
This is 100% true. I have seen Meghan jump into a pool fully clothed.
Oh, I forgot
she's
about
down.
Yes.
She is down.
Yes. And I'm like, how can I talk about it to people if I don't understand what they're going through? And so how can I not do this? And so it didn't give me a lot of time, but and I got nervous right before, but the person with you does all the work. You just have to be there. There's certain techniques that you have to do. And it was amazing. Like, it was amazing. And I just couldn't believe that it happened, and it happened so quickly. And then to top that off, so I thought that was the end of our day. And then the director says, well, now we go back to airborne days. So this is a separate area, but right next to each other. She's like, well, they're taking a plane up right now, and they want you to sit up front with the pilot, and you get to watch everyone jump out of this aircraft. Not me jump, but got to see everybody at the military level jump out in their process, and it was amazing. And they're all giving me high fives because I jumped out of a plane. Meanwhile, they're doing these solo jumps.
This is
and
their
doing all
40th time that day.
Right.
Yeah.
But they were like giving me high fives.
That's so cool.
I know. And then I was like, that's it. I'm done for the year. I'm just kidding. But it was a really cool experience.
Wait, so while we were prepping, you kind of told me that there was a little postscript on that experience.
Oh, this was a second experience.
Oh, okay. Well, tell me that.
Okay, so I was going down to visit at Fort Bragg now. Well, is it changed
Yes,
yet?
it's Bragg again.
It's Bragg again.
Okay, let me say that. Okay, so Bragg. We were meeting with JSOC and a couple other customers on some parachute requirements. And I had already jumped at one point, and I'm like, hey, I'd really love to jump again. And they're like, let's do it today. I'm like, oh my Lord. All right, let's do it.
Kicked off your heels.
Yeah.
Took off your long white gloves.
So I had prepared that. Yes.
Right?
Yes. So I had prepared. Now I just go anywhere with the appropriate. Anytime I know I'm working with parachutes, I just bring the appropriate attire just in case. Just like I always travel with a bathing suit.
Prepared.
You never know.
Always
you never know.
prepared.
Exactly.
That's right.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So we jumped out of a plane. So it was a manufacturer, someone from JSOC that was filming it. And then I was with someone that was the medical background, but also did that. And so the jump was amazing. I'm like, I got this. I'm going to solo jump one day. Anyway, fast forward, everything went well. Everybody was like very happy. It was really cool to be with actual the end users and them talking about their issues as well. So fast forward, I run to this manufacturer that jumped with us like months later. He's like, hey, did you ever see that footage of our jump? I'm like, no, I didn't. But we definitely felt like we bonded over this. He's like, yeah, I watched it, and it looked like something could have gone horribly wrong during that jump.
Oh my.
And he said, but that they were able to recover. And he said, but that it got pushed up, and the way that it was released or something, that it wasn't the proper protocol, and it could have gone horribly wrong. And I don't know if he was kidding, but I don't think he was.
Meanwhile, no more civilians ever jumping again.
I know. So I tell my husband, he's like, yeah, that's never going to happen again.
So now your footage is like what they use to train people what not to do.
Maybe.
Yeah.
We'll never know.
Famous for the don't do this, please.
Yes.
Don't kill the civilians.
Right.
They don't like that. Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So again, it's weird to interview you because we've worked together for such a long time. Something that I'm always interested in for people is, you've been an athlete, you've been a Southern lady, you're a mom, you have a really impressive resume and are an extraordinary person. And I always am curious, what's your why? What gets you up in the morning and gets you continuing to do this job after such a long time? And it's hard. It's grinding. You're away from your kids a lot because of the travel. So what's your why?
So I feel like because I am an athlete, I always have a purpose. And then after the collegiate sports were over, I didn't really have a purpose.
Back up a little bit. What sport did you play?
I played soccer. Okay. So I got a scholarship for soccer. And then midway through my 5 years there, I started to play tennis with the team as well. So then I became on the team and had a scholarship for tennis as well. But like all growing up, I loved all sports. So I had to eventually drop a lot of sports. So I played volleyball, basketball, tennis, and I swam competitively, Olympic development for volleyball and soccer. And so that's just been my life.
You're such a badass.
Oh, thanks. But I'm very gross motor. And so my mom raised me that way. My mom was a cheerleader. That's how she met my dad. He was a basketball player in college. And so that's just a part of me. And that's how I learn as well. So after I traveled a lot, I played in Bolivia, I played in Europe, did a lot of those things. But after college, I was really burnt out on sports or those specific sports. So I thought, I'm going to take a year off. I'm going to learn how to surf. And so I moved to Virginia Beach because I had some friends that lived here. And so I just wanted to take a year off. And I started working at a surf shop. And 5 years later, I'm still there at the surf shop. And I'm like, I've got to get my life together now. I had a great job at the surf shop. I was the ladies' buyer, which was aligned with my minor, which is in fashion merchandising. But I felt like this wasn't like a long-term thing. And so then I moved on. Keep in mind, let me back up a little bit. So Virginia Beach is a huge Navy and military space. I grew up in Aiken, South Carolina, where the nearest base was Fort Gordon. And ironically, my grandfather was a colonel in the Army. And my dad was in the military for a short amount of time. My uncle went to, I can't remember the name, but it's a very prestigious military school. He was in the Army. My other uncle was in the Army. But what's weird is we never really talked about the military growing up. Like my grandfather was obviously an incredible person, but he didn't really talk about the military. And I would think like most people do in the military families. So I never really understood the impact he had and the relevance that he had. So moving to Virginia Beach, I just saw I had a whole new understanding and appreciation for the military. And I always thought if I hadn't played soccer, I think I would have joined the military because of just what we do, the bigger purpose. So I found out about ADS and I just was really drawn to it just because of the purpose and providing solutions and being bigger than yourself. Because if you can't do it, let's help the people that are out there fighting the fight. And so that's how I landed on it, I would say. And ADS just as a company, it's work hard, play hard, which my family has always taught me to do. So we're really aligned where we have high expectations for each other. We hold each other accountable, just like in sports. And our greater purpose is just to find a solution to get people home and to make sure they're safe. And so that's really it. I needed to find another purpose, and this is it.
Thank you so much, Meghan, for joining us today and for sharing your ADS story and your personal stories with us. And thank you for joining us on From the Dive Shop. We'll see you next time.